We're talking 2 a.m. And here I was walking on the streets of Sebastopol. That's the name of the town. Bare feet at 2 a.m. while my partner was trailing me in the car, asking me to get into the car and come back home. Again, essentially an all-white town. I eventually got in the car and I came back to the house, and I could have died of shame. As people of diasporic origin, living authentically means delving deep into our cultural legacy burdens. At Rich Queer Aunties, we go beyond financial success, embracing rich insights, truth, and authenticity. Join me, Christabel, a nurse leader, writer, and African auntie, as I share insights and practical resources such as self-care strategies, mindfulness practices, and deep cultural analysis. Drawing from my experiences overcoming a controlling religious and traditional African background to embracing life as an openly gay woman, I've gathered knowledge to help you live fully and authentically. Each episode aims to help you uncover your subconscious narratives, prioritize your mental health, and nurture a meaningful community that truly reflects who you are. We'll explore how merging our heritage of collectivism with individualism can lead to a peaceful state of interdependence. Consider this podcast your sanctuary to redefine success, discover joy in the everyday, and reshape the narratives that have defined you. Stay connected and deepen your journey by joining our community on Instagram or engage with our discussions on Substack. Let's explore what it means to live authentically together. Welcome back to the podcast. Last week, I had Kachi, my partner, on the podcast, and so many of you enjoy the conversations. And I really think that I do so good in conversation with another person. And so Kachi's back, and this time around, she's going to be interviewing me, which hasn't happened on the podcast yet. So yeah, I'm a little nervous, but so I'm really excited to get into the conversation. Let's do it.
I just want to say thank you for having me back on. This feels like an honor. Just want to say that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let's get into it. We talked in the last episode about my healing journey and how my journey has started with my body first and how that's different for you.
Yeah.
You start your journey with your head first. And I just want to know, why did you choose that path and all the wonderful details along that way? We just want to hear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Head first. Oof. I've always been a heady person, a heady child. I've always been a nerd. I love books. I've loved books for as long as I can remember. Always excelled in the sciences. I was a math champ. I read novels voraciously as a kid. So I've always been interested in how things work. Stories that other people have to tell about how things work. What science has to say about how things work. So when I was at this juncture where I was trying to figure out why I did the things I did, it was a no-brainer to just go to the people who know this, the science of human behavior, psychology. And so that's kind of why. I remember there was this pivotal moment in my life where I was with my partner. I was finally dating a woman. Yes, not openly, but I was dating a woman. I was living with a woman. Yet I found that my behaviors still mirrored the behaviors that I exhibited in my hetero relationships. I had the same anger, the violence that I exhibited, the just erratic, not being able to control my actions. It was still ongoing. And I was really just so confounded by that, because here I was in a relationship that I deeply loved my partner. I wanted to love her well. I wanted to love her gently and tenderly. And I would make all these bargains with myself. Okay, Christabel, when you get angry, you don't have to scream. You don't have to yell. You don't have to get out of control. You can do this. And I would always not keep that bargain. So this pivotal moment was we were living in this white town in Northern California for a travel nurse assignment. We were both travel nurses. And it was 2 a.m. Something had happened. I was so distraught and emotionally, I just could not control my rage. I was so distraught. So what I decided to do was, okay, since I'm feeling this way, I do not want to be indoors. So I'm just going to leave the house. We're talking 2 a.m. And here I was walking on the streets of Sebastopol. That's the name of the town. Bare feet at 2 a.m. while my partner was trailing me in the car, asking me to get into the car and come back home. Again, I'm essentially an all-white town. I eventually got in the car and I came back to the house and I could have died of shame. I was so petrified at my behavior. In fact, I don't even remember what she did. I'm sure it was something sinister and insidious and just really something that she knew would trigger me. But like for me at that point, that was no longer the point. I just said to myself, it did not matter what anyone else did to me. I had to figure out how not to behave this way, how to establish control of my emotions. And this was like 10 years ago.
Just hearing you share that story is just so visceral. I feel like I can feel the emotions that you're going through and how disembodied that must have felt and how hard to have to sit through that and needing support, you know. And I'm just curious, what did you decide to do when you reached that juncture where it was just like, I need to do something different. Something here has to change. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, like I said, I had made all these bargains with myself. I was still in church. I was still a Jehovah's Witness then. So I would pray for Jehovah to help me overcome this thing in me. And it hadn't worked. I was not going to give my testimony.
That's hard.
And so actually the first email I ever sent my therapist was exactly that. I said, I've prayed, I've given it to God, and it hasn't worked. And I would like to understand why I do what I do. If you feel like you can help me, I would really appreciate getting to meet with you. And he replied and he said, well, we'll see. I'm taking new clients. And so, yeah, why don't you come in? And so that's what I did about it. I sent my first inquiry for therapy, and it was the only inquiry I sent. And I had him as a therapist for 8 years.
How did you know this was somebody that could help you work on the things you were struggling with? Like,
I didn't know. I didn't know with certainty. What I knew was that he was a doctor of psychology. And psychology is the study of human behavior. So if there was anybody who could help me understand my human behavior, it's got to be a psychologist. That's what I figured. And so that's how come I started therapy.
And what was your relationship like in therapy with this new therapist that you found?
So I was raised in Nigeria and Ghana, right? And I came to the US when I was 21. And up until, I think I was 28 when I sent that email. Up until then, be it in church, culturally, in my family, not a single person had ever mentioned therapy. I think sometimes when you're living in the US or in the West or other parts of the world, or even just like on social media with globalization, you would think that these things are common everywhere, that people just talk about therapy. No, that was not in my purview. I didn't know a single person who had been in therapy. I didn't know anything about therapy. It was a brand new avenue. I couldn't will myself. So here I was in this man's office. By the way, he is like a 70-year-old white German man. And I'm in his office and I'm telling him my life story. And I'm pouring my heart out. I'm telling him about my upbringing, the physical, emotional, verbal abuse I underwent. I'm telling him about church and growing up a Jehovah's Witness. I'm telling him about me being gay. I'm telling him about me being an immigrant and living in the US without my family. So I'm telling him all these things and he is just listening. He's listening patiently. He's taking down notes. He's reflecting things back to me. He's like, oh, wow, that must be really hard. And over the course of our relationship, what he would keep coming back to first, after anything I would share with him, it would be, that makes sense. It makes sense that you would behave that way. It makes sense that you would be that angry. It makes sense that you not being out, you still going to a church that tells you that your very being is a sin and that you would not inherit God's kingdom, which was the ultimate reason for going to the church. It makes sense that how physically and verbally abused you were in your childhood and witnessing your dad physically abuse your mom. It makes sense that you would adopt some of those behaviors. So it's the therapeutic relationship is really, I thought it was understanding human behavior, understanding the science of human behavior that was going to bring about the change. Turns out it was understanding that it made sense.
What did hearing it made sense do to you? Like, how did that make you feel in your nervous system, in your mind, in your body? Just to hear him say that.
It helped me not judge myself so much. It helped me not feel so much shame. I mean, even just talking about this openly, there's still inklings of shame there because no one wants to talk about how they are not skilled in controlling their emotional outbursts. At least no one is talking about it on social media. Everyone is irregulated. Everyone argues perfectly. Everyone uses I statements. Everyone is nonviolent communicating. And I feel like that was the only space where I could show up in my ugliness or what I perceived as my ugliness and space held for me by this person I did not know, but I was beginning to trust.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like fluff. It didn't feel like fake. He would say it makes sense, and then he would give me the thing that I sought initially, the reason why it made sense, how human behavior works, how we develop adaptive behaviors to survive a traumatic childhood, and how protective those adaptive mechanisms are. Like how it literally keeps us alive.
Because we never understand when we're experiencing it, why it's happening. We're very much shameful about it, or we feel like deeply like hurt and bad for actually expressing in that way. But to have someone tell you that it makes sense, it's so calming. And you get to be seen and affirmed. And you can just see yourself too in that.
I honestly felt short of killing myself or killing someone else or the threat of that. He was just, even then, he'll be like, I understand why you want to slash those tires. Because how dare them treat you like this? how dare them treat you like
yeah.
your mom used to treat you so abusively.
Yeah.
And when you were a child, you couldn't fight back, and now you can fight back. So of course you want to fight back with everything in you. But I was going to say, short of wanting to kill myself or wanting to kill someone else, he was just like, yeah, boo, I understand. It absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
And now let me show you how to develop new adaptive mechanisms to navigate these things without feeling like if you gave up that control, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So that therapeutic relationship saved my life in a very literal sense. It helped me to learn that while it made sense, I also had the ability to develop new skills and new ways of moving through pain and hurt. Because here's the thing about me. I never start nothing. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't start shit. But I'm going to finish it, though. I'm going to finish it. I ain't going to start it. It's usually when I feel attacked, when I feel undermined, when I feel deceived, when I feel lied to. It's only in these situations that thing comes out. This is a little bit of a segue, but speaking of that thing, there's this therapist, I love his work, whom I heard about from one of my favorite books on CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. His name is Jacob Ham, and he talks about people with CPTSD hulking out. And by the way, CPTSD is a cluster of symptoms that one experiences after they have endured trauma, prolonged periods of trauma, usually in childhood. So it's different from PTSD because it's not one instigating event that leads to the post-traumatic symptoms. Rather, it's over a prolonged period of time, usually in childhood, and that brings about a collection of symptoms, otherwise known as CPTSD. So Jacob Ham talks about hulking out and how sometimes people with CPTSD, they get into these spaces where they feel triggered. That's the colloquial term of it. Essentially re-traumatized, and they exhibit intense behavior, and how sometimes letting the person hulk out is the only way, because eventually it's going to crescendo and then it's going to drop, and then all the catecholamines and like all the, neurotransmitters calm down, and they're like, oh fuck, what did I do? So that was me all the time. Anytime I would talk to him about all these ways that I've hulked out, he'll be like, oh my gosh, that trigger must have been really intense for you. You must have been really re-traumatized in a big way. And let me show you these tiny little things you can incorporate in your life to make it feel less intense. And I essentially went to therapy every week for 8 years. It takes a long time to rewire those things.
What were some of the books that have made you feel seen and that you are not alone in this experience of healing and this hulking out experience that you feel as well?
Yeah, I read a lot, but I will say the top 2 books that stand out to me that I remember and that has just really made me feel not alone is What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu. She relates her childhood growing up with abusive parents and how it led to her discovering that she had CPTSD, and how that explained these cluster of symptoms that she exhibited in her relationships. That book is one of the first books where I was like, someone is speaking honestly about this. Someone is speaking honestly about their role in their relationships failing or not working out. The honesty, the transparency, because a lot of things you find are people just basically telling you how they are healed now and how they learned how to speak in I statements and how that fixed everything in their life. But what my bones know was frank, was honest. I saw myself in it. And the second book is, I think it's Dance with Anger. It's a book chronicling what it looks like for a person to have all this anger as a result of their quote unquote mother wound. And how it's important to take stock of the fact that you didn't start this dance. Usually it's generations long, and you can take responsibility for your part of it, but you do not have to carry the load of the generations past. And it really helped me to lean into understanding my mom, understanding what she had gone through, gaining empathy for her, and understanding that while I do not have a mandate to change my mom, if I took the mandate to change my steps in the dance I did with my mom, things can change. So I would just say those two books, and of course, Buddhist principles. Buddhist principles are so comforting to me because it's impermanence, acceptance, change, and I utilize those techniques when I especially want to beat myself up, to remember that this is just a moment in time and that it will pass, and that I will have a chance to make amends. I will have a chance to recover. I will have a chance to do better. But yeah, those have been really pivotal to my journey.
What were some of the steps that you took to change the dance, your relationship with yourself, your mother, and in the relationship you had with your former partner?
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say that early on in therapy, one thing I kept coming back to was, even if it's 99% their fault, your only business is with the 1% that is yours. At least right now. So during the early years of therapy, that really helped me stay focused. Because, my ex-partner was not perfect. My mom is not perfect. And they contributed to the ways I reacted. And I found that the more I focused on how they contributed in my re-traumatization, the less I was focused on how to gain new skills. And so that was a big thing for me, coupled with self-talk. I would talk to myself. It wasn't just affirmations or mantras, none of that. It was very situational. I would talk to myself. I would say, what would Thomas say? And Thomas was my therapist. What would Thomas say? Okay, Christabel, even if it's 99% their fault, what is your 1% here? What is your 1% here? And so that kept me focused. What is my 1%? How can I refine that 1%? How can I employ the skills I'm learning in therapy to tackle that 1%? That was a big thing in therapy for me. In addition to that, it was a lot of learning to show myself empathy, learning to talk to myself nicer, to be kind, to be soft, to be gentle with myself. And that eventually translated to how I interacted with other people, including my mom. Boundaries were talked about, but it is almost opposite of how it's talked about on social media. As in, that wasn't the focus. The focus wasn't learning how to say no to other people. The focus was learning how to say yes to myself. And in saying yes to myself, it inevitably ended up being no to other people. And I would block my mom. We would get into these yelling matches because my mom is my favorite sparring partner. She is so good at it. She is better than me at it. We will go down to the depths of hell and she has nothing stopping her. So I had to learn to say yes to myself. And that often meant midway through a particularly grueling sparring session with her, I would say, okay, as she's typing, I would hit blocked.
That's bold.
It was either that or try to have her understand what she was doing. And sure. Thomas was like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. But by modeling to her how you want to be treated and how you want to be talked to, the dance would change. She doesn't have to change a single dance step, but if you change your dance step, the dance will change. So just little by little like that, I will block her. And then several days later, I won't block her. And then I would say, hey, how are you doing? Are you feeling better? By then, she, of course, would have been feeling way better. The thing about my mom, she would always come back. She's kind of like me like that. It leaves her. She doesn't hold grudges. And she just wants to get past it too. So that's actually very helpful. That was very helpful in our relationship. And with my ex, man, it was just like, yo, you out here doing all these things. And because the ways I failed were so loud, it seemed like it was all me. And so once I started moving differently, it became obvious that it wasn't all me. But here's the thing, it's not on me to fix you either. So yeah, biggest thing I learned in therapy, focus on myself.
Yeah. This leads me into asking, what was your coming out story?
Oh,
yeah. Still being Jehovah's Witness too, right?
Yeah. I mean, yes, the first year of therapy, I was still a witness. My therapist would talk about how it was just unconscionable that any group would say that I was a sin because of who I loved. He was so he felt very passionately about that. He actually had to lay off because I kept telling him, sir, it's okay. I don't mind that this is my sin. I don't mind that I have the sin of homosexuality. It's okay. I'm okay not inheriting God's kingdom. It's okay. And he would just be trying to tell me, it's not a sin. You're fine just the way you are. And so we bumped heads when it came to that. The first few months we were together. But as the months went on, at the end of the first year, I was stronger. I had a stronger inner world. I talked to myself better. I was just like, you're not sinning. You're okay, just as you are. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Just because you were called horrible names every day of your childhood and you were physically beat every day of your childhood, you're not broken. It's not irredeemable. Mm-hmm. And so I gained confidence. I understood my self-worth, which is different from self-esteem because I never had a problem with confidence and how other people saw me because I performed well in career, that kind of stuff. But self-worth was incredibly lacking. It was non-existent. Over that first year, I gained that self-worth needed to be able to say to everyone that I love women. I love a woman. I live with a woman. And yeah, I did a Facebook post and just put it out there. This was 2014. Everyone was on Facebook and my church, my congregation members, my mom, my extended family members, everyone got the news at the same time that I was gay and I was not going to quit. And yeah, they all unfollowed. And my mom came into WhatsApp to tell me how I was a disgrace and abomination. And I blocked her. So that's how that happened.
That's intense.
It was intense. But I made sure to go to therapy that week.
You know what? Thank God for therapy. At least your humanity was seen and validated still.
Yeah.
You know, despite the pain and the hurt that the community that you thought you were a part of could not understand and could not see.
Mm-mm. And they could not help me be better. So you see, like, they actually fucking failed.
That's so sad.
Their God could not help me be better because it wasn't a matter of desire. It wasn't a matter of, did I want it bad enough? I fucking wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be better. I wanted to not be so angry all the time. I wanted to know how to control or navigate my emotional states. I wanted to know how to handle the pain of a childhood of deep trauma. And they just directed me to Bible scriptures and to prayer as the answer. And it did not fucking work. The potion they're selling is fake. I am so sorry. It is fake. And so them saying that I'm not going to talk to you anymore because you love a woman, you don't want to constantly kill yourself anymore, you know how to regulate your emotions most of the time now. And because of that, we would not talk to you. We will remove you from our lives. We will remove you from our circle. And I was like, okay, I guess you have to do what you have to do. But if you talk to me about it, and the thing about Jehovah's Witnesses is that they're cowards, so they won't talk to you about it. They remove themselves because God knows I was prepared to cuss out anybody who fucking came to me telling me anything. Because I'm like, y'all did not see how miserable I was. And if y'all saw it, you could not help me. Your God could not help me. Mm-hmm. So I have something helping me and it is working. And that's all I care about. Yeah.
You're going to take a breath.
Okay. Okay. Now you're bringing out all the juicy bits.
The juicy bits.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. First of all, it's unfortunate that communities that were the foundation of our upbringing, of what we understood love looked like, and connection, and forgiveness, and growth, and all of these things, and healing, could not be there when we needed it the most.
Yeah.
And to be in that position that must have felt so isolating, and to still persist and say that you will survive despite it. It's more than just courageous. It's like self-trust, a lot of that, and a will to actually live for good, live for love. So yeah, I just want to recognize that that's a beautiful thing and a bold and a true thing to live for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And speaking of self-trust, and I don't think I mentioned this earlier, I think that was one of the biggest gifts of therapy for me. Because I think a lot of people will think that therapy is about doing homework and doing assignments and just talking. But for me, and Jacob Ham also said this, that the biggest work of therapy is developing a therapeutic relationship. Mm-hmm. And for so many of us who have CPTSD, have had intense trauma in our lives, that is usually our first secure relationship.
Yeah.
Our first secure attachment, where we know that our therapist will show up on the day, at the time that they say they will. Mm-hmm. and they will show up consistently in their behavior and their actions towards us. Yes, we're paying them for it, but the fact that they have to pay rent does not take away from the fact that they care about good therapists, by the way, right? Or a well-matched therapist. It doesn't take away from the fact that they care about you learning to trust yourself and trusting them, trusting that relationship, and seeing them trust you helps you trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because you too are showing up for therapy, like you said you will.
Mm-hmm.
You too are taking the time out every single week. You too are paying for this knowledge, this service, the space that is being held. So it goes along with what you were saying about self-trust.
Yeah.
That's what that helped me with. And it's what fuels everything be it as a nurse or with this podcast or all the other endeavors I ever undertake. That's what fuels it. How do we heal in community? How do we heal in relationships? How do we utilize other people's ability to mirror us to see ourselves more clearly? Speaking of, I'm going to take this time to tell you guys about my new collective. It's called Oganihu Collective. It is a community for creatives of diasporic origin looking to build a creative career in community with other people who understand what it feels like to be from the global South, to be African, to be from the diaspora, the struggles that we go through to believe in that we can do this, that the traditional career path is not the only path for us to take, that we can do it. How do we support each other through that? How do we skill share? How do we co-work and body double together? So if this feels like something that could be useful to you, check it out. You can find the information on social media, ChristabelMintagalloway.com. It's Oganihu Collective. It's $10 a month. If you join now, it's $10 a month in perpetuity for all the founding members who join between now and November 30th. Come through and let's build in community and with each other.
Thank you for sharing that. So just to return to the healing journey that you've been going through, it had been 8 years you've been in therapy. How are you now? How has therapy supported you in balancing the coping mechanisms that you adopted throughout your upbringing and throughout your adult years and the new knowledge that you have also adopted? How are you bringing it into your present life? And how is it helping you?
I feel like I should be asking you that question. How am I showing up today? But let me take a stab at it. Healing is a lifelong journey. Every passing day, I realize the truth of that more clearly.
Yeah.
And I'm still alive. I am turning 40 next year.
Hey.
So I have more healing to do.
Yeah.
I will say that where I am today feels mathematically 60%, 70% better than I was 10 years ago. That 30 to 40% still comes and kicks my ass pretty hard. The 30 to 40% of the time where I'm just like, I hulk out or I lose my shit because I'm scared, I'm in pain, I am re-traumatized. It still happens. And I still feel frustration and shame around it sometimes because it feels very much like all these years later, A decade later, we're still dealing with this shit. It's the same old shit. I don't have any new vices. Honestly, it's the same thing born out of extreme childhood trauma. And I guess hope is that by the time I'm 80, it would be 20% less. And in the meantime, I focus on creating community and partnership with people who understand the full complexity of humanity, who see their own humanity, therefore can see mine. I don't have any perfect friends. I don't have a perfect partner. My mom is not perfect. I don't have any perfect relationships, but I have very authentic, true, real, honest relationships. I have people who, because trust is a spectrum, and I have people who are constantly willing and able to work on fostering the trust that I have, that we share amongst ourselves, who are constantly working to make amends when they falter, to name the ways they falter. They teach me to let go of the shame, because the shame can be very self-centered and ego-driven. When you put shame aside, you can make room for making amends. A little bit of shame that motivates one to behaving better, fine, that's fine. But like wallowing in it is still putting focus on yourself when you should be putting focus on how can I repair this rupture? How can I make amends? So that's how my relationships are going. I would never, ever, if any ever see me on the internet saying, I don't argue with my partner, I don't fight with anyone, I never yell, you know I have been lobotomized and someone else put in my stead. It's just not gonna happen. I don't got it. And I'm a fucking good friend. I'm a fucking good partner. Still. But yeah, if y'all ever hear me preaching that shit, my body double has taken over. It ain't me. Now, when I'm 90, I could very well say that. You feel me? That's the goal.
Yeah, respect.
In the meantime, it's just accepting impermanence, deepening my practices. Those feel really good. My meditation practice, my being in community practice, my amends making practice, my being able to pause and go drink some water or eat some food and see if I want to continue fighting after that. So thank you for reminding me to do that so often. You're like, we haven't slept. We have not eaten.
And that there's the balance, you know. Sometimes the brain might think it can go without the essentials that the body does need. And it brings me into, you know, what are some ways that you can find that balance between going into reacting based on whatever situation you find yourself that someone has started or brought up? How do you find balance between reacting and pausing and taking care of some of the essentials, you know?
Well, I can certainly try to answer that, but I think that needs that's a full subject on its own and perhaps another podcast episode to talk about that nervous system regulation and all that entails. But I will say that for me, it's really helpful to have reminders from other people, from whoever I'm dealing with, because it's not a thing that I can as of yet, intrinsically do all the time. I am beginning to do it a little bit more, I think, where I say, it's still very awkward, where I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. And then even the way I say I'm going to go to bed sounds like a whole new fight on its own. But that's my baby steps in learning that, okay, this is internal and it requires internal processing while I get some rest, while I feed my body, while I sleep, whatever. And so that's from you reminding me, as often as you have reminded me over the last 2 years, like, hey, maybe we can pause, maybe we can drink some water, maybe we can get some sleep, maybe we can get some rest, and then we can pick it up. Even if I fight against it, more and more, I'm beginning to listen. And in doing that, I'm also now able to remind myself some of the time to do that. And I think that's kind of how healing in relationships also works. So,
because the trauma and the experience of that trauma that happened in childhood is in a relationship, you know. And I think, and from the things that I've been reading as well, that makes trauma so deeply hurtful is that when it happens, there isn't enough time to do the work to return to safety and to repair. It just keeps building on top of the last one. And the resentment and the hurt and the pain and the shame just bounds. Yeah. And then in your adult life, it's like you, as an adult, sometimes don't have the time to pause and see and reflect on what's happening. You continue the cycle if you don't have that like awareness and the mindfulness practices to, let me give this a moment. So I do like how you said this would be a wonderful segue into another podcast to talk more deeply about this balance, because therapy and learning these new habits take time to embed into our system. And in that time, it's still going to be very awkward. It's just going to be like...
And how do you not give up? Especially if we're causing the people we love pain. There is a part of us that seeks for it to be fixed right now.
Yeah.
For us to be quote unquote fixed right now.
Perfect
Right now. So of course, then we can talk about it on social media about how we and our partner, we never fight. We just we resolve conflicts so perfectly, and we always use I statements, and we nonverbal communicate and all this stuff. Because you wouldn't be able to say that too. There's a little jealousy. There's a little jealousy and envy there, where you're just like, I wish that was me. And so if that's not me, I'm over here like beating myself up about it. But you see, this is why it's a bigger conversation to be had. Because
we realize that it's not that simple, too. It is a balance that we have to strike between the types of tools that we use to confront the conflict and the challenges that we experience on our day-to-day. And sometimes the tools vary. Sometimes we do have to get violent, if necessary, for good. And sometimes we can employ nonviolent tactics, but it's not perfect. And we do want to cause less harm to ourselves and to others that we are in relationship with. So the balancing act, the balancing process just keeps us here and alive. Yeah. And working towards, what is that, equanimity or?
Yeah. I was going to say that's what Buddhism helps me with the most. Equanimity. Being with what is as is, non-judgmentally. Can you be with this moment as it is, non-judgmentally? Mindfulness. Yeah. And so, I choose mindfulness over perfection.
I agree with that.
Because perfection is an illusion. And if you fuck around and play yourself and delude yourself and delude others, then you don't actually see what is. So then
I agree.
You'll be 80
I agree.
and you will not be 20% better. So I don't want that for me, ultimately.
Yeah.
So,
to being 20% better at 80, that's where we want to be.
yes, 20% better at 80. Okay,
Yeah.
baby.
Wonderful. This was a wonderful conversation.
Oh my
God.
You actually brought something out.
I didn't realize the more that I could learn from you and I don't know, like, this feels true. This feels like we are both seen. I feel like I continue to see you more. I see you, but I continue to see you more. And I felt like this conversation was very necessary. And thank you for having me back on. This was great.
Thank you for being back on.
Yay.
And I can't wait to have you again. I have to essentially bully her to come on. I'm like, this is good.
I'm very
for you.
stubborn sometimes.
But I do well in conversation.
I do too. I have to remember that.
I think it really just elevates the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate I love you too. So much.
I love you too.
So much. More than. Okay. That's a wrap.
Wonderful.
So if you enjoyed this podcast, please rate it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. The ratings matter so much. The reviews matter. And if you think you know at least one person who can benefit from this, please share it with them. It means the world to me. And until next time, take care of yourself.